Today I'm thrilled to be taking a look at this. It's the brand new Iron Studios 1/10 Clever Girl statue. And this obviously is inspired by the moment in Jurassic Park when our formidable hunter, Robert Muldoon, faces off with the Velociraptor and is ambushed and outwitted by his prey. As well as the two resin figures, we have a weighty polystone diorama base, we have a detachable Jurassic Park logo which has a magnet on the back for easy attachment, and we also have a separate plastic hat. In the film Jurassic Park, a sweaty Robert Muldoon carefully removes his hat before unfolding the stock on his rifle and slowly moving in on the Velociraptor. The raptor emerges through the bushes at a surprise moment. The raptor leaps out of the jungle and attacks him. Now, when I was looking at the promotional images for this set, I was a little bit put off at first because Muldoon was pictured with his hat on, like so. And if you remember the film as clearly as I do, I knew that he took off his hat before going closer. So it's nice that the hat is detachable because that brings it closer to what you see in the film. If you want him to wear the hat, you can just put the hat on like so, and that looks pretty good to me. The other noticeable difference is that he doesn't actually have his rifle in his hands, and in the film he is holding his rifle and aims it at the raptor before he is ambushed. So I might look at 3D printing something in 1/10 scale to stand in for the rifle, either drop to the floor or maybe hanging from one arm. Those of you with a keen eye may notice how the Velociraptor very clearly resembles a behind-the-scenes still at Stan Winston Studios when they were testing the animatronic raptor for the Lost World Jurassic Park. And as the puppet actually shares the same sculpt as Jurassic Park, the original film, we can compare this model with that behind the scenes still to see how accurate they actually got the raptor. And you can see that there are discrepancies in the skull area. It's not as boxy or tall as the animatronic, and also the head feels very slender from front on. I've also heard some fans say that the neck looks very elongated in this particular model. Now, I have to take into consideration that in Jurassic Park itself, they seem to use like a man in a suit, and it seems like the neck area is quite deformed, so I'm willing to forgive these discrepancies. Taking a close-up look at the polystone base, it's actually got loads of lovely detail going on here. It's got some sculpted plant life as well as these plastic fronds, these artificial jungle pieces. These are plastic round the back. The only thing I'd say is they look quite manufactured. They almost got like a cookie cutter plastic look to them, but they weathered it with sort of reddish brown paint to make it marry with the base a little bit more, so I can forgive that. The tree trunk is actually really nice with the exposed inner tree there. You can see there's some more sculpted plant life, so these are actually part of the polystone casting. You can actually see we've got Robert Muldoon's boot footprint here in the mud, and that actually serves as a guide for where to place him. When you put the peg in the peg hole, the boot actually lines up with that footprint, so it's actually quite nice for helping you with the placement. Underneath here it says Clever Girl Iron Studios 1/10 scale. It doesn't have an edition number. Sometimes on a base you'll have how many were made. The only thing I'd say is I'm not keen on the way that Iron Studios tapers their bases to a smaller surface area on the bottom. I would prefer it to slope outwards so that it's more stable at the bottom. But that's just a small gripe, and as it's such a small base, it's not that much different. I think that lightness is absolutely spot on. In terms of sculpt, I couldn't have asked for better. I think that is so good, both in his expression and the likeness. Some of the paint job could be, finessed a little bit, but that's still pretty damn good. He's got these little highlights actually painted onto his blue eyes, you can see there. Very stark blue eyes, but I think it serves the purpose because when you see this on the statue, it actually stands out as fearful eyes. I think it works really well. It's a nice choice. The hair is kind of like Lego hair. It kind of is cut off on a very harsh line, but the actual sculptural detail of the hair is quite nice. Maybe you could have some more variation in the paint job there. You can see there's a really nice waxy glow coming through these hands, and it really brings life to the flesh of the hand. It's really, really nice, especially when it's lit from above. It really does look like, real human flesh. And the detail actually on the clothing is extraordinary. I mean, look at this. This is getting on for looking realistic. I'd say maybe there could be more variation in the paint job on the bright shirts, but the actual sculptural detail and the vest is just amazing. Look at this. And you can see there's actually some shotgun shells there in his pocket. Really, really nice. So the detail across the clothing is extraordinary. I have no issues with this, apart from maybe the paint job could be improved. Again, really beautiful sculpt work on the legs, the musculature showing through, and again it's got that sort of translucency to it. Feels like real flesh, very waxy. And then the detail on the boots and the socks is just incredible. These silver painted buckles really catch the light. They've used a very, very reflective paint for this, and it really works well because the details really ping out. And same on the other boot. Just very, very nicely painted, weathered on the socks. Yeah, the detail is just really outstanding. Even the undersides of the boot, even though you're never going to see those. Yeah, so yeah, very impressive, and particularly that likeness. Here's a quick look at the hat, which I believe is cast in plastic. Sufficient detail to look like Robert Muldoon's hat, and it does sit on his head. It doesn't fit snugly. You do have to find a sweet spot where it's sitting where it won't fall off. So let's try. I'd say maybe bias to the front looks a bit better, but yeah, you do have to find a sweet spot that works for you. Taking a close-up look at the raptor, you can see the head sculpt there. As I said, it's a little bit off film accurate, but still it's incredible the kind of paintwork that they've done on this, and the finish on it, the sort of satin semi-gloss finish, works really well. Really picks out all that scaling detail in the sculpt. The neck seems to have a broader sculpt than the detail on the head. The head has like finer detail, which was similar to what we had on the Iron Studios T-Rex. We had finer detail on the head area, and then as you transition down the body, it got a bit broader. But that tends to work for the sculpts. Here you can see a visible seam line around the arm. The actual hands themselves look really nice, and the claws look really good as well. They've actually matched the coloration that you see in the film, I believe. Really nice. Again, around the leg there is a visible seam line, you can just see it there. But when you've got top-down lighting, and there's another one there, you don't really see these when you take in the whole piece. Lovely foot with a toe claw there. Yeah, the sculpt is really, really nice. On the other side, very nice. Very nice splayed fingers on this side too. And then back up to that head sculpt. And I love the paint job on the eye area there. they've added a little bit of brown at the bottom, so you get almost like shadowing from the skylight above. The head sculpt, as we talked about, is a little bit off, but also I'd say this leg feels a little bit narrow in the thigh area here. And I don't know if that's because it was a digital creation and maybe it was distorted a bit. But also the hands do feel a little bit chunky looking at it here. And the tail is a little bit misshapen. But, you know, these are minor gripes considering the quality of this figure. Okay, scale comparison time. Here is my 1/10 Tyrannosaurus Rex from Iron Studios. And you can see how it scales up next to the Clever Girl statue. Comes up to just above the T-Rex's knee and looks fantastic paired with it actually. And here is the statue next to the raptors in the kitchen set, also from Iron Studios, and I've made a custom cardboard and felt base for that because I didn't like the way it tapered to a smaller surface area. But you can see how they look next to each other, both representing really iconic moments from Jurassic Park, and I think these two as a pair are really worthwhile picking up. So you can see here the Clever Girl raptor on the left. The skull is definitely a different shape, especially in the upper part of the jaw. The skull shape is definitely a bit narrower, and there's more of a shiny finish on the Clever Girl raptor, and more detail on areas like the scales, especially on the top of the head there. If you have a look at the raptors in the kitchen set, it's much more simplified and airbrushed, whereas on this Clever Girl set you've got individual picked out scales in the paint job. Also the eyes are slightly larger on the raptor in the kitchen set. On this one they're slightly smaller, but they have more variation in the actual eye colour itself. They've actually added some shadowing on the lower part of the eye. So yeah, there's definitely more detail in the paint job, but I'd say the sculpt is just a little bit off compared to the raptors in the kitchen set. Stepping back though, it is harder to detect these sculptural differences, mainly because their poses are so strikingly different. And actually, when they're side by side, they do complement each other really well. So just how big is this figure? If I bring in my ruler here, you're looking at about 25 centimeters tall, which is about 10 inches. You're looking at about 10 inches across as well, again about 25 centimeters. And in terms of the footprint, 15 centimeters across, which is just under 6 inches. And in terms of the depth, maybe 13 centimeters, which is about 5 inches. So there we have it. That was today's look at the 1/10 scale Iron Studios Clever Girl statue, which includes Robert Muldoon and the raptor in attack mode. I actually would recommend Jurassic Park fans pick this one up. It's actually quite an affordable price point. It's still in the high-end market for statues, but it's one that isn't too expensive and actually has a lot of display value. I'd also say if you've got the raptors in the kitchen set, this might be a nice accompaniment for that because it represents another key moment that includes our favourite raptors. Okay guys, let me know what you think. Will you be picking this one up? Rate, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.